Welcome back to the latest researches and news. We have three major updates about the ongoing conflict. Let's start in Wulo, because this story tells us something bigger than it first appears. The Amhara Fano national movement reports that near its 303rd Esaminu Corps operating zone in South Wulo, another group of government soldiers has defected, bringing their weapons with them. According to the report, these troops were stationed near Shumsha/Lalibela Airport in the Lasta area, under command structures loyal to Abiy Ahmed. 3 regular soldiers reportedly crossed over with 5 Kalashnikov rifles, 6 hand grenades, 3 sets of body armor, and around 840 rounds of ammunition, joining Fano's 19th Battalion. Separately, a squad commander is said to have brought over his own rifle along with 2 more from soldiers under his command. Here's why this matters analytically. Individual defections aren't just symbolic. When soldiers desert with weapons and ammunition, it does 2 things at once. It directly arms the opposing force, and it signals to other units that defection is viable and survivable. Militaries watch morale closely because desertion tends to cluster. One defection becomes an example becomes a pattern. If this is happening in multiple pockets of Wulo, it suggests the regime's hold over its own rank and file may be weaker than official narratives suggest. Now here's the part that concerns me most. Over the past several hours, a number of unscheduled Ethiopian Airlines flights have reportedly been tracked flight numbers, including ETH 2214, ETH 2249, ETH 2115, and several others. These flights reportedly originated from Dire Dawa in the Somali region and from Hawassa, where the Ethiopian National Defense Forces Special Forces Command is headquartered, and flew toward Addis Ababa. The key detail: these flights don't appear in normal public scheduling records, which is often how militaries move personnel on commercial aircraft without an official paper trail. Why does the destination matter here? Addis Ababa isn't a front line, so if elements of the Eastern Command and Special Forces are being pulled out of their usual regions and concentrated in the capital, the most plausible explanation is that a reserve force is being assembled, one that can be redirected quickly to wherever the next front opens, whether that's toward Amhara or elsewhere. In military logistics, capital city troop buildups that aren't tied to a public event are usually a staging step, not an end point. At the same time, on the Tigray side, Tigray People Liberation Front leadership has reportedly instructed activists and journalists to stop posting anything about Tigrayan troop movements on social media. From an analyst's perspective, that's also a signal. It suggests Tigray's leadership believes exposure of their positions could be used against them, which typically happens when a side expects contact or wants to preserve the element of surprise. Adding to this, there are also claims that some international commercial flights have started avoiding airspace over Mekelle, Alamata, and the Tigray Afar border. Civilian airlines tend to reroute around areas experiencing electronic jamming or heavy military buildup, so if accurate, this would be an independent, third-party indicator pointing in the same direction as everything else. A necessary caveat: none of this is officially confirmed. Flight tracking and troop movement claims like these come from open source monitoring and second-hand reports, not verified military disclosures. I'm presenting the pattern because the pattern itself is what's analytically interesting, not because any single data point should be taken as fact. Finally, let's talk about a story that's easy to miss, but matters for the bigger picture. Reports indicate that 3 cargo flights from Belarus, including an Ilyushin IL-76, landed in Eritrea, reportedly at Massawa, over the past several days, after transiting through Yeda. Belarus has become one of Russia's key partners in supplying discounted Russian-style weaponry to countries that can't access Western or full-price Russian arms markets, largely because Belarus itself manufactures certain weapons components to support Russia's war in Ukraine. Why track this at all? Because arms shipments are often the clearest leading indicator of a country's military intentions, clearer in some ways than public statements. Countries don't usually restock heavy military hardware unless they are either replacing depleted stockpiles or preparing for sustained operations. Given Eritrea's history of involvement in the northern Ethiopia conflict, a fresh arms shipment at this specific moment, right alongside Ethiopian National Defense Force troop consolidation, is not something analysts would dismiss as coincidence. What exactly these flights carried hasn't been confirmed publicly, but the timing, the route, and the source country all point toward a defense-related shipment. And underneath all of this is the same uncomfortable reality. Ordinary Ethiopians and Eritreans are dealing with hunger, displacement, and are fleeing as refugees, while their governments continue directing resources toward weapons rather than relief. So putting it all together, defections weakening the regime from within, unexplained troop consolidation in the capital, and fresh arms shipments landing in Eritrea. Individually, each story raises questions. Together, they start to form a pattern, and it's one worth watching closely in the days ahead. If you want these updates as they develop, subscribe and turn on notifications. Let me know your read on this in the comments. Take care.